Hi, this is Michael from GoMatrixHosting.com. Today we're going to be covering planning out your Matrix server. First thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that you have a web address that you would like to use. It could either be the web address of your existing website, or it could be a new web address that you've leased just to run a Matrix service at. For this example, we're going to be using mantismedical.xyz, and we're going to be assuming that there is already a website at this address, and we're basically trying to create a Matrix service around our existing website. Okay, let's have a look at the subdomains we're going to use. First off, we're going to need to define what is our base domain. This is the most simple form of our domain that we're going to use, and it will basically appear inside of our username. So if we had a user called Barry, it would basically appear as &Barry:mantismedical.xyz. Next, we're going to need to define our element subdomain, which is usually element dot whatever the base domain is, but for this example we're going to use chat.mantismedical.xyz. Next thing we're going to want to define is the base domain being used? If you remember, I told you we already have a website at this address, so we're going to use base domain used equals true. If you don't have a website at this address already, you're going to want to use base domain used equals false. Other addresses we're going to be using, we're going to have a matrix subdomain at matrix.mantismedical.xyz, which is basically our home server address that clients and other matrix servers will be talking to. We also have a Jitsi subdomain at jitsi.thebase-domain, which is a conferencing software for group discussions and screen. And we're also going to have a dimension subdomain at dimension.thebase-domain, which is the integration server that will provide us with widgets and bridges and bots that we can use in our matrix rooms. Now you might be wondering, can I have my base domain as a subdomain itself? Yes, you can. Here is an example of how that would work. Here we see our base domain is now sub.mantismedical.xyz, and we've basically appended sub dot to all the rest of these values. But for this tutorial we're going to go with the simpler example where it's just mantismedical.xyz. Okay, now you've picked out your domains, we're going to ask, what kind of server do we want? Do we want a DigitalOcean server, or do we want our own on-premises server? With the DigitalOcean servers, we'll basically rent a droplet for you. If you're not sure what location to pick, you should pick one that's close to your actual location so that you don't experience that much latency. The other type of server you can have with us is an on-premises server, which is like a server you bring yourself. It could be either a VPS from another provider, or it could actually be a physical server that you have on your location. There are a few requirements for this. It needs to have a 86 by 64-bit chip. It also needs to have Debian 10 as the operating system. It also needs to have SSD storage, preferably NVMe SSD storage. It also needs to have our public SSH key added to this file location here so that our system can dial in. It also needs a public IPv4 or IPv6 address. And we would also recommend having at least 0.5 megabit per second upload per user. So if you're going to have 100 users, we would recommend having 50 megabit per second upload. You could get away with less than this, but it will make your experience more laggy basically. Okay, so let's go with the DigitalOcean server for this example. So let's navigate to the GoMatrixHosting.com website, and we will create a subscription and a user account, and we'll get started. So first you're going to want to enter your details. If you're wondering, you don't actually need to provide your real address, it's just something that MemberPress requires in order to work. But we would recommend providing your real email address, because otherwise you won't be able to verify or recover your account if you lose your login, which is pretty important. So this is just an example email. I don't actually own dummy at protonmail.com. And for the password, you're going to want to make sure that it is a very strong password. Next thing you're going to want to do is read the terms of service and our privacy policy and make sure you actually agree with them. And if you do, tick them off and then continue on through the sign up. Next, you'll be prompted by the Stripe to make a payment through Stripe, where you'll be asked to provide your credit card details. Here we see the Stripe checkout. We're going to copy in a fake credit card detail. Those are my actual credit card details. And then we want to hit subscribe. There we go. After your payment's completed, you'll be directed back to the website. Now we can go to the Account tab and use the login that you've created to view our account details. Inside the account page, we can see your details and you can update them from here. We also have links to the user manual and the support room. You can also see your active subscriptions as well as payments you've made for those subscriptions. If we go up here in the top panel of the website, we can jump over to the AWX panel. If this is your first time logging into AWX, it's going to seem a bit daunting, but basically the first thing you should be looking for is templates in the left column here. And this template here, provision a new server, that will allow you to create your server. And you launch it with this rocket symbol over here. Okay, thanks for watching. Inside the account page, we can see your details and you can update them from here. We also have links to the user manual and the support room. You can also see your active subscriptions as well as payments you've made for those subscriptions. If we go up here in the top panel of the website, we can jump over to the AWX panel. If this is your first time logging into AWX, it's going to seem a bit daunting, but basically the first thing you should be looking for is templates in the left column here. And this template here, provision a new server, that will allow you to create your server. And you launch it with this rocket symbol over here. Okay, thanks for watching.